अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, वाशिंगटन नाइट शो के साथ मैं हूं आपका मेज़बान आसिम सिद्दीकी। नाज़रीन, आज का प्रोग्राम बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है, बहुत ज़बरदस्त है। हमारे गेस्ट बहुत अच्छे हैं। बात करेंगे इम्पैक्ट ऑफ द पेंडेमिक ऑन फैमिली डायनामिक्स। डॉक्टर अल्ताफ आज हमारे गेस्ट हैं और डॉक्टर अल्ताफ हुसैन के बारे में थोड़ा-सा बताता चलूं कि ही सर्व एज द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द यकीन इंस्टीट्यूट फॉर इस्लामिक रिसर्च एंड एडवाइजरी बोर्ड, मेंबर ऑफ द पीसफुल फैमिलीज project dedicated to the prevention of domestic violence. His past services to the community, including serving 2 terms as a vice president of ISNA, 2 terms as a national president of Muslim Student Association, and is executive committee member of the Muslim Alliance in North America. Dr. Altaf, thank you so much for joining Washington Night Show.
Shukriya. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Dr. Altaf, without further ado, I want to pass it on to Dr. कि आप जो है impact of the pandemic of family dynamics के ऊपर आज थोड़ा सा हमें lecture दें, then we can start question answer section. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shukriya Mehrbani. So if my audio is good, just give me a thumbs up. Everything's good?
Great.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank Asim Bhai, mashallah, for his show and for all of the great work he's doing, and may Allah bless him and indeed all of his team in helping so many people benefit from all of the programs that he brings on. Brothers and sisters, we join you in the last few nights of Ramadan, so we want to be sure that we encourage all of you to make the most of these last few nights. It is not the way we had planned it. All of us had different plans, whether it was iftar parties or being with family and others enjoying Ramadan. But alhamdulillah, we say alhamdulillah for everything that's happening. So with regards to the impact of the pandemic on family dynamics, there are a few points we can make, inshallah. Then I look forward to having a conversation with both Sister Nabila and Asim Bhai, inshallah. That number one is that this was something that we should have been ready for from the beginning. And what do I mean by that? Too often, we used work and other kind of things that keep us busy from actually spending time with the family. So we should have been ready to prepare to spend time with the family, and including myself, I was not fully prepared, and I'll tell you why. So, for example, because of work and university obligations, and I'm the vice president for Yaqeen Institute, and also in other community engagements, such as the Mustafa Center, with the various programs they have and things. I was not ready that I will be the one spending so much time at home. But alhamdulillah, once that happened, I realized what a blessing it is. So we want to be sure that we're planning ahead from now on to account for whatever free time we have, that we do our best. We do our best to spend it with the family. You can always, open up the phone and go through Facebook and go through, some other social media app and spend time that way. But actually, who needs us the most? It's our husband, our wife, our children, our perhaps parents and in-laws and others who are living with us. So we should have been prepared. And alhamdulillah, this got us prepared because for the last almost 2.5 months, we have all been sheltering in place or during lockdown. Now, of course, this has a different meaning as well, because this is not without challenges. It's not as if we just went home and sat still. Children had to continue to go to school. Moms and dads had to continue to work. Even though we were not physically going to work, we had to work perhaps from home. So that dynamic shifted. And we were not ready for that aspect either, because most of the time we were able to manage work at work, bring home a little bit of work maybe, but most of the time we were managing it at work. Children were at school unless they were homeschooled, such as in my case. And so that dynamic was very different. And we will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the notion that suddenly everything of importance in our life was starting to be managed from home. Well, sometimes we forget that not every family has the ability to manage that. Not every family has access to 1 or 2 or 3 laptops or other devices or computers. Not every family perhaps has the resources to be able to work from home. Some jobs required people to still come to work. and they had to continue get up and go to work and be in the middle of this pandemic, risking their lives, right? And so we need to think about both our family and the impact on our family, but also on the impact of the pandemic on those who perhaps did not have the resources to be able to manage it as well as we were. So, what are the dynamics, and what can we be, considering or thinking about? Well, relationships are so critical. We need to understand that relationships take time to build. Relationships take time and patience. And I am the first one to remind myself to stop being so impatient, to expect everything to happen so suddenly. So one of the things that's happened with the pandemic is that now we've had to stay with one another 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with minimal breaks, if you will, to maybe go to get some groceries or some other reason where we had to leave the home. But most of the time we were together at home. In that time, we may have either rediscovered some relationships. Maybe husbands and wives spoke to each other with quality time. I mean, we're always speaking to each other, but maybe with quality time to really discuss some of the major issues facing the family, or to handle something more urgent. For example, if a family member was ill or sick, I found myself continuously reminding the children, don't get injured. Don't get injured, because the hospitals are overwhelmed and we do not want to burden them more with something that you could prevent by not getting injured. But then that also made it seem to them that we were telling them to sit still and do nothing during the pandemic. This was not the impression. The impression should have been, let's work on different ways to spend time together, right? How do we build that relationship? And so I started to play games with them. Things that I would not have had time to do in our regular life, if you will. Spending time with them playing games, you discover and rediscover the personalities of the children. You find out who is more competitive than the next child, right? Who is more thoughtful, who is more, if you will, impatient, like his father or her father, right? So these things happen because now we're giving time to allow for that. But we should say that don't try to solve all of the problems of any relationships because it's the pandemic and say, well, we're at home, so let's just try to solve every problem, because that will be very stressful. That's not an expectation. And indeed, we know that we should begin with the challenges that we can manage. So what are some basic things we can do? So I was able to spend more time, as I mentioned, with the children, with my wife, speaking with them for a longer time in a quality way, playing board games and playing other games, but also with helping around the house, right? So that became a new sort of a way to spend time, because what things needed fixing? What are you, delaying over and over again and not doing and helping? But the reality is that all of these things will test us, because there's a limit to the amount of patience a person can have, and even a limit to how much a person can sit still without going outside whenever we want to, without being able to take the children to the playgrounds and so forth. So in addition to relationship building and spending time, we also want to talk about the family coming together to really get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what a better time than knowing that in Rajab and Sha'ban, we were already in lockdown, not able to go anywhere. And then now we're in Ramadan, and it's amazing how fast the Ramadan went by. I'm sure everyone who is listening and who is observing Ramadan is saying the same thing, how fast it went by. Well, in Ramadan, and if you haven't yet done it, you still have a few more nights, maybe now add other aspects to your family routine and schedule. Maybe push yourselves a little bit more to say, let's take advantage of the fact that mom and dad don't have to get up in the morning and rush out of the door to go to work. That maybe we actually say, because of Ramadan, we will spend time to get up earlier before sahri or suhoor, and pray a little bit together, eat inshallah something delicious, and then pray together, and then stay awake a little bit longer, right? Maybe reciting the Quran, maybe studying about the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, maybe some other topic that's of benefit, just for a few minutes. and make those moments memorable for the children. Don't be harsh on them. Don't push them and keep yelling at them because they're being slow or they're not moving fast enough, right? It ruins the mood. And I have to remind myself because I find myself in my work mode all the time with time and time and time. So keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, right? And this is not a good thing to do. So we want to be sure also that as we are finishing Ramadan, inshallah, that you make time to make really strong memories. And it doesn't have to only to do with Ramadan. Make memories in the pandemic of things the children will be able to look back long time from now. Long time from now, inshallah, in their lifetime, they will not have another situation like this. So they can look back and they say, subhanallah, my parents, they worked so hard. Even in the pandemic, they were always concerned about our health, our well-being, our emotional well-being, about spending time with us, right? About teaching us, about being patient with us and playing with us different games and so forth. What are the memories that you have created? How is it in your family and household? Are you getting help by looking at lectures online? Are you watching lectures online as a family and then discussing it, right? We don't have to have all the answers. Maybe we can get some videos or some other, short articles to read with the family or to discuss with the family. How are you making the most of this pandemic? So while the dynamics we've talked about are mostly positive, like relationship building, spending time, being patient, right, making memories, we also want to spend a little bit of time, inshallah, before the Q&A to really talk about the fact that this is also a very stressful time for many families. The resources are simply not there for all of them. We have heard many stories around the US of immigrants and refugee families, right, having difficulty with providing food for their family, having difficulty because maybe they were experiencing some health challenge and they didn't have insurance. Over 40 to 45 million people in America did not have insurance at one time, or underinsured or uninsured. Muslims among them, right? Immigrants and refugees among them. So for them, and maybe you are one of the families who is listening to this program today, and you're saying, yes, that describes our family a lot. Economic difficulties, difficulties with health and well-being, right? So for that, we have to say as Muslims, what are we doing? What are we doing to improve that situation? Are we spending time learning about the difficulties? Are we donating money, right, to improve the situation of other families? There are many campaigns, right? Many different projects that you could donate to. One of the aspects of this is, do you donate being very intentional, with a very good and strong niyat or intention to say, oh Allah, I have a lot of sins myself, and I have a lot of weaknesses myself, but I have some resources. So let me use those resources to help others who are facing all this difficulty. It's not going to be easy. We know many of our relatives and friends and family members have become ill, and some of them are still not feeling better. Others have passed away, even during this pandemic, even in Ramadan and before Ramadan. And when they passed away, there's a lot of grief, a lot of sadness within the family. And you know what makes it worse? Many times our loved ones were in the hospital and they couldn't have anyone around them. No one to comfort them, no one to be with them, no one to spend time with them. We are very thankful to all of the medical professionals, the doctors, the nurses, other health professionals, the social workers, the psychiatrists who worked in the hospital and who continue to work daily to make it easy on our relatives and family and friends. But it was difficult to receive the news that so-and-so had passed away. They were alone in the hospital. And then even after the burial and the preparation for janazah was made for their burial, only a handful of people could go, maybe maximum of 10 people, and that too close family and friends, close family members. I should remind you that how Brother Asim Bhai and I met was through the facility, the funeral facility that's being built by Mustafa Center, right? The funeral chapel, so that we can have a place right? To have a dignified burial for all of our loved ones. But even when this pandemic, when someone passed away, it was very difficult. We couldn't grieve properly. We had to do everything virtually. So my reminder to myself and to you is that the pandemic is an opportunity. The pandemic is a blessing. Don't curse the pandemic. Don't curse the year 2020. Don't try to, don't be so pessimistic. Yes, there are challenges, but if we remind ourselves, especially for those of the listeners who are Muslims, if you remind ourselves that Allah is in charge, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge, that we have to be fully convinced and have trust in Him, that indeed, the best plan is that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what can we do as I close now before we do the Q&A? Maybe one of the ways we spend time with the family, knowing all of these different dynamics, is to start to really make more dua together, right? Spend time understanding how each person and the relationship they have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Make dua for things that are special to you. For example, in Ramadan, everybody wants to become closer to Allah and get the blessings of the odd nights, the Laylatul Qadr, right? So 25th night was last night, that was an odd night. Tomorrow night is perhaps the 27th night, another odd night. Why not? We know we cannot go to the masjid. We know that we're trying to do everything at home. But you can make it special for the children by teaching them how to make dua. Let them know they can ask Allah anything they want. And the children will feel so happy that they know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who listens to them and inshallah will answer their dua. As family members, make dua for one another. We don't spend enough time making dua for each other. The husbands making dua for the wives making dua for the husbands, the children making dua for the parents making dua for the children. How else will we get the answers to some of the problems we're facing if we don't turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If we don't turn to Him and ask Him, ask Him for help, right? And seeking forgiveness, by the way, for oneself first. And then also seeking forgiveness from those around you. Maybe we were harsh or impatient with our children or with our husband or wife. It's a good time to go privately to them. We're not rushing anywhere. Go privately to them and say to them, I'm so sorry that I was impatient with you the other day, or that I said something harsh to you. I'm so sorry that I was not being considerate of your feelings. I was not being present when you were trying to talk to me. I seemed distracted. And I'm sorry, and I'll do better. Learning to say that in the family, reminding each other to say sorry, to say thank you, to show gratitude. This is a way that husbands and wives and parents can be role models for our children. So when you make dua and they hear the children hear the father making dua for the mother making dua for the father, the parents making dua for the children, inshallah, the children will see that this is something very normal and very expected of them, that they should indeed do everything possible to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be there and to be present. So when we talk about making dua for one another, dua begins by actually being mentally present. It's very rare that somebody can make dua without really reflecting on what they're asking for. In fact, it's not even recommended because it seems so odd that you would want to be asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for benefit, and ultimately you are actually not even there. You're not even paying attention to what's happening. So I'm monitoring the time. So if you see me looking down, it's because I want to make sure that I don't overstep the time. So we need to be present, and we need to understand that husbands and wives and parents and children, those dynamics of presence means that nothing else matters for that time being. If your children want to show you something, they made a drawing. To you, it may seem, it's not even important. What is that? Just a small drawing. But actually, the drawing is something very important to that child. It's their whole world. It's their whole world. So why not take a minute and ask them, why don't you tell me, what did you draw? Tell me, what is it that you're seeing in this picture? Don't be too harsh. Don't be too strict and say you didn't draw straight lines or it wasn't a neat picture. Just enjoy the picture. Maybe the children want to sing a song with you. Enjoy the moment of singing with them. Maybe your wife wants to tell you something that has happened in the daytime. Maybe you have something to say to your wife. Find a way to be present, to really have meaningful interactions. And believe it or not, the pandemic has taught us that really everything we thought was important, everything we were rushing for, everything we didn't make time for, in fact, we always had the time. So just as I began by saying that the pandemic, we were not prepared for it in many ways, alhamdulillah, now we understand and we learn that we can derive much benefit from it. Of course, as I mentioned, it's not going to be easy. And I'm hoping and praying that you and your family have done everything possible, really everything possible, to make the most of it, right? And inshallah, as we continue the program, we will address this more, but the mental health is critical. I'm in social work. Others are in psychology and psychiatry. We already understand that it is not easy to live a life of uncertainty, to not know the health consequences of the pandemic, the economic consequences of the pandemic. People have lost their jobs. They've lost their health insurance. Some people are struggling to pay rent, just to pay the rent. And so they're stressed because what if the landlord tells them they have to leave? Where will they go? That mental health, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran addresses it. And actually it's connected to giving. And giving here doesn't mean you only can give by spending money. Because if in fact you're facing financial difficulty, you may say, how do I expend when I don't have that much myself? Well, you have time. Maybe in your neighborhood, you look to see with your children and with the family. Look up the numbers and the names of people who are elderly and just take turns calling them, right? Especially if they don't have their own family members nearby. Call them and check on them. So your children see you caring for someone else. Your children see you worrying about someone else, worrying about their well-being. And in that way, you actually improve your own mental health by realizing that there are people who may have a more difficult life than you do. We heard so many stories. And in fact, good work is being done to feed the people who are hungry, who do not have enough food, to indeed help with Ramadan and iftar and sahri and suhoor, right? To be able to let them know that we are here for them, to support them, and to be able to provide for them. Of course, not because we are showing off, but because Allah blessed us with something and we're sharing that with others. But don't do it so privately that your children and your husband or wife don't know about it. Make sure that they understand that that's what we are doing. Because when they grow up, if they see good role models from their family, inshallah, they will be able to say that my mother and my father, they are the ones I learned about loving other people, about caring for them, about taking time to serve them, and so forth. So let me summarize, inshallah, what we tried to talk about. We began by discussing relationships and the importance of relationships. We began by talking about the importance of time. And then we talked about the notion of being patient and working out different challenges with the relationships. Then we talked a little bit about the importance of making good memories for the children in Ramadan. And then we ended by talking about dua and about giving sadaqah in some form. Even your smile, as the Prophet, peace upon him, said, is sadaqah. And inshallah, you got some benefit from what we talked about. And then we'll have some questions and answers, and hopefully more benefit will come, inshallah. Thank you so much.
मैं अपनी आवाज खोलने ही भूल गया. थैंक यू सो मच. बहुत जबरदस्त बात की आपने, और लेक्चर्स तो हम सुनते ही रहते हैं, लेकिन नजीन डॉक्टर साहब ने जो बात की थी उसमें एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बात है दुआ. दुआ करें अपने लिए, अपने बच्चों के लिए. बच्चे पेरेंट्स के लिए करें, पेरेंट्स बच्चों के लिए करें, और द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट कि आप इंजर्ड ना हो, मेक श्योर इंजर्ड ना हो, क्योंकि हॉस्पिटल इस वक्त जो है वो वायरस से घिरा हुआ है। तो आप जो है बस कोशिश करें कि घर में रहें और अपने घर वालों को जो है टाइम दें, हर एक दूसरे के साथ खेलें, एक दूसरे के साथ टाइम पास करें। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया डॉक्टर साहब। हमारे साथ सिस्टर नबीला मौजूद हैं, सोशल मीडिया एजेंसी में काम करती हैं और लोगों के साथ इनका काफ़ी मिलना जुलना होता है। कुछ क्वेश्चंस हम लेकर आए थे, तो मैं चाहूँगा कि सिस्टर नबीला जो है वो पूछें आपसे क्वेश्चन। सिस्टर नबीला, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग वॉशिंगटन नाइट शो। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Brother Asim, for having me on your show. As you said, I'm the co-founder of Social Media, a marketing agency for good. We do marketing for nonprofits and organizations that are giving back to the community. You can learn more about our marketing agency at socialmediallc.com. Alhamdulillah, we have been able to help with Mustafa's funeral facility project. And you probably heard a lot about it, especially if you are from the DMV area. The project is nearly 50% complete, and the funeral facility is under construction, alhamdulillah. It will serve the entire Muslim community in the DC metro area. That is approximately 300,000 people. To learn more and continue donating to the Sadqa Jariyah, please visit mustafacenter.org. Thank you so much, Dr. Altaf, for your relevant and timely talk. So these are some questions we received from the community members, and they have submitted. So the first question is, how has the stay-at-home order affected people's mental health? What can be done to combat such issues? And can you share tips to counter depression?
Thank you so much. So, and also thank you for the thank you for the company that you're running and the social media work that you're doing. So, the institute which I am with, I'm the vice president for Yaqeen Institute. If people want to visit, we have various psychologists and others in the mental health professions who have written and produced videos about this. But basically, the thinking is that those who came into the pandemic with some kind of mental health challenges, the risk was that it could get worse for them because now they did not have perhaps the same routine as they were used to. And those who had maybe mild symptoms of mental health issues, it could be possible that the pandemic made those symptoms worse and it manifested in different ways. What we can say is that number one, there you can still get help through what's called telehealth services, and there's some disturbance. Asim bhai?
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's better now. Thank you. It's okay. Thank you. I thought it was just in my head because I'm fasting. All right. So the idea, right, that there is still help. So let me just begin there. So, people don't think that, oh, he's just saying to watch videos or listen to some lectures. No, you can still get help. It's called telehealth. And so there are still psychologists and counselors available, and you can manage to do that, inshallah, from the comfort of your own home, and so that you can continue to get help. But the amazing thing is, with mental health, right, the goal is for us to do our best to get help professionally, but not to forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge. And that whatever difficulty I'm facing, whatever trial and challenge I'm facing, I should begin by acknowledging that Allah is in charge, that I may not know the answers to everything. So we have something called, there's a paper about this on yaqeeninstitute.org, that uncertainty intolerance, that some people are unable to manage any kind of uncertainty. They panic very easily. And so now suddenly, in March 13th or March 12th or 13th in the DC area, we were told, hey, everybody, start staying at home. So we thought, okay, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? March turned into April, April turned into May is coming to an end, and we haven't gone anywhere, and nothing has changed. So for those people where uncertainty is very difficult for them, their mental health is definitely going to be affected. So what we're saying to them is, look, we don't have the answers. We want to be very honest with you. We don't have the answers. So nobody knows exactly when we can open the businesses back up, the masjid back up, your workplace back up, the schools back up. Officially, they're trying to do phase 1, phase 2 like that. But if you stress out because you think we have some control over it, then you'll be even worse with mental health issues. The better thing is to say, I will get help for my mental health issues, but I'll also put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He knows what's best for me. And inshallah, He will take care of me. And one of the du'as that we recite quite often is from the Quran, is Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. That Allah is sufficient for me, and He is the best. One of His names is Al-Wakil, the one who disposes really well of all of the affairs, right? And so when we have tawakkul, we're having trust that the best way every plan will turn out is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Right.
So keep saying that, inshallah, to yourself. If you find it difficult as you're getting the professional help, remind yourself, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. Nabila, do you have any other?
Yes.
Please.
Can you share tips to maintain connections with family and friends at this time?
Sure. So as much as we are relying on, and I'll hold it up so you can see it, on the phone, I'm saying that let's minimize screen time. While it's easy to be in the basement, if you have a basement, and then text your husband or wife, whatever you're thinking about, it's maybe a little bit easier to get up and make some effort and go and see them, right? And go and talk to them, even with our children, because we're at home. We're not really at work where we need to send a message. But maybe family members who are not in the same home, then we have to talk about how to do what I call functional communication. And what do I mean by that? Functional communication is basically checking in with one another, but not stressing each other out, right? If you know that you wanted me to call you, and I'm your parent, or I'm your brother or sister or uncle or aunt or in-laws, right? And suppose I'm late by half an hour and I didn't call you. Well, when I call you, don't make the first thing, I don't understand. You never call on time. You've never been on time your whole life. Even you were born 1 week late. Don't talk like that. That's not helpful to anybody. That's not functional communication. It's dysfunctional. Make excuses and say, I wonder if something came up. Something came up and they were late in calling me. And then when you talk to each other, ask about general things. Don't be inquisitive to such a degree that people become uncomfortable, right? Like, I hear children fighting in the back, right? Yeah, children are going to fight. It's okay. Don't say things like, you and your wife have no control over the children. If you're going to check in with people, be a source of good feelings for them. Don't make it so that they run away from your call and they never stop never take your call again, because every time you call, it's stressful, right? Be functional, be helpful, be uplifting, be positive. Inshallah, that's how we can maintain connections.
Yes, Nabila.
Thank you. So this is more of a difficult question. As a community, what can we do to prevent domestic violence, especially during this time when victims may be forced to stay at home?
So I'm also on the advisory board of an organization based here in Northern Virginia called Peaceful Families Project. So when you get a chance, inshallah, at home, you can Google Peaceful Families Project, and you can, inshallah, benefit from the resources that are there to understand this challenge. Now, to be sure, from the start, we should say, in Islam, there's absolutely no tolerance whatsoever, no excuse, no justification for anyone to even be severely harsh with words, let alone to actually strike someone or to hit them, whether it's parents and children or spouses, husbands and wives and husbands, or to parent, nothing. So let's just begin there. But however, with the pandemic, we understood that there was an increase in the stress of people who are already victims of this level of abuse and harshness and physical, sometimes violence. Why? Because maybe the person who was the one doing the hitting or doing the abuse was now suddenly always at home. So people were very nervous. Well, we don't want to say anything or do anything because now they're here with us all the time. First of all, we make dua for them for those situations. May Allah grant them relief. May Allah, help them and protect them, the children and whoever is the victim of this violence. But also they need to get help. They cannot solve this on their own. This is not something that will just go away. Dua is very important, but a lot of times behavior cannot be changed until an intervention takes place, until someone sits down and says to the person who is the perpetrator or the one causing the abuse, to say to them, do you understand the impact of what you're doing? Every time you hit someone, every time you use a bad word or bad language, you are actually causing them a lot of harm, a lot of harm. And maybe you need to get help controlling your anger, your temper, and so forth. So in the pandemic, that's been the one thing that people have been very nervous about, is that there would be a rise in this. And we don't have numbers yet. We don't have data. We don't have research because everything is happening day by day. But clearly, those of us who are in the field have been doing our best to educate people to say, don't suffer in silence. You are not betraying your husband or your wife or your children if you need to get help and you're asking someone for help. Because if you get help and you improve and you're the one who's causing the harm, or you are the victim and you get help, then the whole family can inshallah improve and actually move forward in a unified way, as opposed to always being stressed out and afraid to live with each other.
How can Muslim families use this time to get closer and build stronger relationships with their kids, especially teenagers?
So yes, we also have 2 teenagers and then 2 younger children in the family. One of the things we have to say with the pandemic is that if you live in an area where they cannot go outside to play, there's no substitute for that. You have to figure out a time for them to be able to go outside to play. The weather, alhamdulillah, in our area has been fairly decent. You cannot expect them to only be inside and still be able to maintain their sanity. During that age group, as most of us know, they're very active. They want to move around quite a bit. So if they're doing things at home and you're becoming upset because you are don't want, again, as we mentioned earlier, to get injured or to break something in the house, right? Let them go outside under supervision, of course, where it's safe and social distancing is in progress. Because as you connect with them, hopefully, they will start to realize that I am important to my parents. I mentioned presence in my talk earlier. That they will realize that work doesn't mean everything to my mom or my dad, right? That I am important to them. They took time out. They take time out every day to spend with me. With the teenagers, it's critical not to push them to talk a lot. Like we assume that because, okay, well, I finished work at 5:30, so now I have half an hour. So I go to the teenager and I say, okay, now talk to me. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like that. They're very moody. They're going through hormonal changes as they're becoming adolescents. And they have, mood swings up and down. They're happy, sad, something happened with their friends on the phone, whatever they're doing. So don't make it artificial. Make it natural. Maybe if you see that they're working on something, homework or some other project, maybe you go and you ask them. You can ask them about the project. And you can say to them, why don't you let me know what you're doing? Explain to me what you're doing. Help me understand what you're doing, right? And I'm hoping, inshallah, that they will take time to talk to you. If they don't, they're very known to speak very short words, right? Asim bhai, the static came back for me. I don't know if it's there for you.
No, everything is okay. Your voice is
Interesting.
okay.
Sister Nabila, do you hear the static? Or it's just for me?
Just for you.
Interesting, very interesting. I'll have to figure out what that is because I have another program after this. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so don't force it, right, upon them. Talk to them, and if they respond in short sentences or whatever, be grateful for that because at least they're talking, right? With teenagers, you need to have patience, inshallah, but befriend them, be their friend so that they can, inshallah, feel comfortable talking to you, inshallah.
बिल्कुल डॉक्टर साहब आपने बिल्कुल सही बात की। नाज़रीन आप सुन रहे होंगे डॉक्टर साहब के क्वेश्चन आंसर, और अब जो मेरा क्वेश्चन है वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। और क्वेश्चन जो है ईद, हाउ कैन मुस्लिम सेलिब्रेट ईद एट होम स्पेशली सिंस कम्युनिटी प्रेयर्स विल नॉट बी हेल्ड? सो ये इज अ रियली बिग क्वेश्चन Can you answer this question?
ये तो सबसे बड़ी मुसीबत यही बात है ना कि मस्जिद तो बंद है, ईदगाह तो नहीं है हमारे पास, तो क्या करेंगे? तो basically, we are saying that the scholars have said that, and Sheikh Yasser Qadi has put out, an article, you can find it online, that there is evidence that somebody, for example, missed praying the Eid prayer with the Jamaat when it was normally happening. So they went and they made up the prayer by themselves with their family, meaning they prayed the exact same Eid prayer by themselves without the khutbah. So we know that at least let's first make sure that the family, makes the Eid prayer. And you can pray two short rakas, two short surahs, nothing very long, right? Nothing so that, if everyone gets kind of frustrated because it's a day of celebration and why are we doing that? Remind them why, but then also keep it short. But here's the important piece. Imagine our children are now thinking to themselves, we don't have Christmas, we don't have Easter, all of America, celebrates such a big way. And the one time we have Eid, it's in the pandemic, right? We're not able to celebrate. So I've been telling people on the night before Eid, iron the clothes as if you were going out of the home. Iron the clothes. Get everybody ready. What are you going to wear? What's the special how are you going to look, right? So get everybody ready. Then make sure that you are looking to see how to actually spend time as a family. My wife started just yesterday. In a jar, there's pieces of paper and pencil. Everybody takes the pencil and piece of paper, and before Eid, they will write one thing for which they are showing gratitude. Shukr ada karne ke liye. So what is one thing you are grateful for, right? And they'll put it in the jar, and then inshallah on Eid day, everybody will get a chance to open it and try to guess who was grateful for which things, right? So do small things. Of course, food is always there, and we will enjoy the food, but make it memorable for them so that they don't feel like we took a shortcut and we said, oh, it's the pandemic, to chale, ghar ke kapde pehen ke baithe, just you woke up and you don't even comb your hair, you just come and show up and say, chalo Eid Mubarak, that's not Eid, that's Basi Eid Mubarak, right? That's like leftover Eid. That's not even good Eid. You want to make it fresh for them and make them feel like you really cared, for everything. And of course, touch base with family here overseas with WhatsApp and video and Skype and Zoom and all of those things. Do that. But for the children and the family here, make it special, inshallah. And if you want to get some small gifts, do that also, right? Something small, something to show that you remembered the children, remembered the husband, remembered the wife, and did something for each other, inshallah.
बिल्कुल बहुत सही बात की डॉक्टर साहब। इसका मतलब है नाज़रीन, आप सुन लें कि आपने सोना नहीं है, ये नहीं कि नमाज नहीं होती तो सब सोते पड़े रहें। बिल्कुल आपने उठना है, उसी तरीके से कपड़े बदलने हैं, उसी तरीके से तैयार होना है फैमिली के साथ। जैसे डॉक्टर साहब ने कहा कि आप नफिल पढ़ लें, उसके बाद जो खाना पीना है, फिर उसके साथ अपने रिश्तेदारों के साथ, दोस्तों के साथ फोन पे, जूम पे बात करें, आपको फील हो कि आप वाकई ईद सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं। मेरा नहीं ख्याल कि हमने कभी जिंदगी में भी सोचा होगा कि ऐसा वक्त आएगा कि तमाम रिलीजियस एक्टिविटीज जो हैं वो स्टॉप हो जाएंगी। डॉक्टर साहब, एक जस्ट मेरे भी दिमाग में ख्याल आया कि ज़कात एंड फितरा की रकम यूजुअली मैं भी नमाज से पहले अदा करता था, हम कभी पहले नहीं करते थे। तो नाउ देयर इज नो मस्जिद, नो प्रे। तो फितरा जो है वो किस तरीके से अदा किया जा सकता है और ज़कात किस तरीके से, और ईद की नमाज से पहले कहते हैं कि ज़कात और फितरा अदा किया जाए। तो कैन यू डिस्क्राइब प्लीज?
सही बात है। तो इस मामले में बस हमें ये सोचना चाहिए कि ज़कातुल फितर का मतलब क्या है, राइट? तो टेक्निकली स्पीकिंग दिस particular zakat was to basically help those who are in need. So the challenge with that, when we do it the old way, is we go all the way till the day of the Eid prayer, and then we give the zakatul fitr. And the problem is has to be distributed on that day, but that is a special day for the people who are in need. So why not now, because of the pandemic, and even going in the future, give it 1 or 2 days before. There is no harm in that. The last deadline, like IRS has deadline for taxes, the last deadline was to do it before the prayer if you had no chance to do it. But now, alhamdulillah, you can go online and you can contact whichever masjid. We mentioned Mustafa Center, and you can say to them, what is the amount for Zakatul Fitr? And we know his Zakatul Fitr is per person of the household. So in my family, we have 6 people, alhamdulillah. So if the masjid says it's $10, then I have to pay $60. If all of that can be collected before the Eid prayer, maybe some of these families will benefit. And when I mentioned about getting food, maybe they will say, alhamdulillah, we were able to get food. Or alhamdulillah, we have some money, now we can get some gifts for our own children that we couldn't afford, right? So change the mindset. Change the mindset and don't wait till the deadline. Go online, and do that. And also, don't check for discounts in Zakat al-Fitr. Somebody was saying, Altaf, you're saying it's $10. Another masjid said $8. Yeah, agar paisa dena to de den. If you want to give it. Give 8 or 10, whatever you want to give. But don't wait till the last minute, right? Just make sure you pay it, inshallah, and do it online so that they can get the funds transferred, inshallah, immediately, and make it really a special day for those families that are in need.
But you said it's $10, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, as far as I know, Adam Center, where I live close to Adam Center, we were told that it's $10 per person. So, multiply 10 times the number of people in the family.
So we can go online. किसी भी मस्जिद में अगर मुस्तफा सेंटर में देना चाह रहे हैं या और किसी मस्जिद, you can go online and go to the fitra. Especially,
yes.
What is the difference between fitra and zakat? I know, but can you describe one more time?
So yeah, just to be very clear, I have a beard, but I'm not an Islamic scholar. Sometimes we mistake the two things. I'm in social work. So zakah, as we understand it, that is mentioned in the Quran, is that a person looks, maybe you pay zakah Ramadan to Ramadan. So you say from this Ramadan to last Ramadan, out of all of the wealth, all of the the money and all of the property and assets that I have, what amount, after I paid for my family, took care of all of our needs, what amount was left for 1 year unused? So that amount, the accumulated savings, then you pay 2.5% of that. So there are now, mashallah, many relief agencies, even some masjids, they have what's called zakat calculator. So you can enter all of your assets, everything you have, how long you had it for the year, and it will tell you the total amount that's due at the end of the, by the calculator. So you can, there's even an app, Asim, you'll be amazed. There's even an app. It's called Zakatify, 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 and they will take it and they will even suggest to you different charities that they can receive the zakat, but they will help you to calculate, inshallah. So there's how to do it, how to calculate it. Zakatul Fitr is basically connected directly to the iftar or the opening of the fast, which means as we're stopping fasting and Ramadan is finishing, then this is the enough money to feed one person for a day, right? And so typically speaking, it's not $10, it should be much more, but they are using standards to say that calculating it to be approximately $10 and then multiplied by the number of people, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Sister Nabila. Waiting for questions. So sorry, I think we have only 11 minutes left. So Sister Nabila, आप questions, मेरे ख्याल है आपके पास 3-4 questions होंगे अभी. So please, Dr. Saab, short answer देके हम.
Inshallah.
Okay.
Thank you.
What can family members do if some members are practicing more extreme measures while others are more relaxed in their approach to social distancing, and this is causing tension within the family? So, we even see in the news there's 2 opposite extremes, but we have these issues in families too.
So, as with everything, we have to understand that education is the biggest thing. So let's understand from them, what is the reason that you are being relaxed? And the people who are thinking that the others are being extreme or too rigid, let's ask them, what is the reason that you are doing this, right? So for example, wearing the face masks when you go outside, right? Now, if you are not interacting with anyone, you're in your car, and most of the time you'll be in your car, maybe you can say, I will not wear the face mask because I'm not going to interact with anyone. But if you're going to be interacting with people, then at least you should do, and at least put it on when you go into the store, or in some stores are not requiring it. But those who are relaxed have to also have an explanation. Well, what's your explanation? So in that conversation, hopefully, both of them will understand that maybe I can be a little less relaxed and maybe I can be a little less rigid in terms of how to do the social distancing. Now, of course, you never want to violate the expectations of someone. If they are nervous about their health and they say, please, I have a pre-existing condition, which we have been told that people with pre-existing conditions have a greater vulnerability to the COVID virus, then don't test them and say, Allah pe tawakkul kare, have trust in Allah. No, don't do that. Respect them and say, okay, that's fine. If this is making you nervous, then we will not come close to you. We will stay a distance from you, and we'll try our best to help you be more comfortable, right? But that takes talking, inshallah, to each other.
So my next question is for from the elderly. How is this impacting the elderly and their mental health? Also, how can we help the elderly in our community as they are under more restrictions and are at higher risk? How can they help themselves?
So again, this is a great question. And one of the ways to really help them is to do our best to share with them resources, right? So they are alone. Like even my own parents and other parents, other people's parents, they live separately. We cannot visit them. They cannot see the grandchildren. So we, tried to have Zoom, or for Mother's Day, for example, we went and we were in the driveway. We were able to see my mother and my father from a distance and so forth. So sharing resources will help them not feel so lonely or so alone in trying to understand what's going on. Now, don't scare them by sending them every article you get, because some of those articles are just complete rubbish, right? They don't even make sense. They have conspiracy theories and all kinds of bad information. Choose one or two things that will help them. So, for example, something that has to do with understanding the disease better or the virus better, right? Maybe it's a short video or something. You can share that with them. But all of this is not going to replace contact. So we need a regular routine to stay in touch with them, to be either doing by phone or by a video call, somehow to let them know that they are very important to us, that we miss them, we miss not seeing them in person, and that we will see them, inshallah, very soon in person. But in the meantime, we will check in on them to make sure they're eating well, because mental health, you mentioned, when people get worried and they're elderly, sometimes they will even skip eating food on time or eating enough to sustain themselves, or taking their medicine on time and so forth. So let's do whatever we can to help them to maintain a regular routine without stressing them out, inshallah.
Good. जी नबील. नबीला आपकी आवाज बंद है मेरा ख्याल है.
Yeah. So the remaining questions are, if you want to sum up, if you have any additional advice for the Muslim American community during this pandemic, and why is it so important for the Muslim Pakistani community to support community projects like the Mustafa Funeral Facility?
जी डॉक्टर साहब, इसमें मैं ऐड कर दूं इसी को कि मुस्तफा सेंटर इज अ वेरी यूनिक प्रोजेक्ट. सो आई रियली वांट टू यू के डिस्क्राइब करें इसको कि ये हमारे लिए कितना ज़रूरी है और इसमें कितनी सपोर्ट की ज़रूरत है और किस तरह लोग हमें सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं. इज़ ऑलमोस्ट 50% कंप्लीट. सो और अभी आप देख लें जैसे कि हालात चल रहे हैं, तो इस किस्म के फ्यूनरल होम में किस तरीके से इम्पोर्टेंट हो सकते हैं. जी.
So number one, we have to remind ourselves to have tawakkul, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the most important lesson out of the pandemic, is that even the best knowledge, best science, best medicine, they could not help someone if Allah willed that they were going to be ill and recover or ill and pass away. So number one, trust. Number two, we have to be planning for the future. The Mustafa Center, funeral chapel that was mentioned earlier, this is one example of a very long-standing project that will not only help the Muslim community in the immediate Northern Virginia, but anywhere from within Maryland, Virginia, DC, a family who has someone pass away, this will be a full-fledged facility to help them. Now, why is it important to think about that? In the pandemic, we realized that those things that cause us the most stress is that which we don't have control over, right? So how do we know, for example, that the funeral facility we're trying to contact, will they take good care of our loved one who passed away? In a funeral chapel like this, It's going to be operated by Muslims. It has even, an area for family to gather and to grieve and to receive visitors who are giving condolences. So the construction is not, what we can help with, meaning the physical construction. But paying for the construction, we can help with. Even if you say, I don't know if I'll ever use the facility, but you know that you'll get the dua of the families who will also use the facility. So you can, think about how much you can support. Maybe you can give, a few $100s. Maybe you can give a few $1,000. However you support, even if you never use the facility, if a family comes there in distress and is able to use the facility and they make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, oh Allah, whoever donated to build this funeral facility, oh Allah, remove the difficulty from their life, right? And the website is mustafacenter.org/donate. mustafacenter.org/donate. And Sister Noshin Beg is reminding us from Facebook, as you see on the screen there, that the zakat calculator is there also for others to donate. So that's for zakah. You can also donate zakah and sadaqah and contact the masjid and figure out how to help. But for the chapel, inshallah, we were really hoping that you will continue to help complete the facility in these coming days of Ramadan. Remember that as one of the projects you will support, inshallah.
Brother Asim, you're mute.
Asim bhai,
ये बता तो मेरी आवाज नहीं आ रही। I just realized कि मेरा माइक बंद है। लेकिन बहुत अच्छी गुफ्तगू हुई, बहुत इंफॉर्मेटिव गुफ्तगू हुई, इस्लामी हवाले से भी, ईद करीब आ रही है उसके हवाले से भी, कोरोना वायरस जिस तरह हमारी ज़िंदगी में अब चला गया है और इतनी आसानी से नहीं निकलने वाला। आने वाले दिन जो हैं आप देख रहे हैं, दिन जितने भी इस्लामिक कंट्रीज़ हैं, कईयों ने ओपन कर दिया। इसके साइड इफ़ेक्ट्स क्या होते हैं, इसके वो हमें बाद में पता चलेंगे, लेकिन कुछ मुल्कों में जो है सख्तियाँ स्टिल हैं। हम अमेरिका में रहते हैं, हमें यहाँ के रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस को फॉलो करना चाहिए। जो भी किसी भी किस्म के आपको हुकूमती सतह पे या गवर्नर की सतह पे हुक्म मिलता है, अगर मास्क का, अगर ग्लव्स का, तो प्लीज़ फॉलो कीजिए। तमाम मस्जिदें और जितने भी रिलीजियस इमारतें हैं उसको फॉलो कीजिए, जो कि गवर्नमेंट के आने वाले दिनों में शायद मेरा ख्याल है कि 50, 60, 100 करके शायद ओपन करना शुरू करें वो। तो प्लीज़ आप सब जो है इस चीज़ का ख्याल रखें। डॉक्टर साहब, एक चीज़ और बताइए कि ये रमज़ान अब ख़त्म हो जाएगा, ईद भी ख़त्म हो जाएगी। आपको क्या फीलिंग है कि आगे आने वाले दिन जो हैं वो किस तरह के हो सकते हैं? क्योंकि हम अमेरिका में रहते हैं, हमारी एक कम्युनिटी की लाइफ़ है, हम एक कम्युनिटी की तरह रहते हैं। तो यहाँ पर किस तरीके के आप देख रहे हैं कि आने वाले दिन जो हैं सख्त लग रहे हैं आपको? आपकी क्या फीलिंग है? 2 मिनट रह गए हैं, डिस्क्राइब करें।
बस आसिम भाई, आप तो बेहतर जानते कि nobody actually knows, right, what the future holds, particularly for the pandemic, because हमारी जो प्लानिंग थी, तो इनिशियली लोग कह रहे थे कि मई के एंड तक इंशाल्लाह हर चीज़ स्टेबल हो जाएंगी और and we will be able to go back to normal life, and it's not happening. So the challenge now is, suppose even for 2 more months it doesn't happen, what can we do to make the most of the pandemic, right? Instead of resigning to say okay, we are giving up, we say instead, okay, let's keep moving with life. Let's keep moving with relationship building. Let's keep moving with community building. We have had many virtual events, many strong virtual events where people are able to, alhamdulillah, be benefiting from gathering online, even fundraising events, lectures and other things. So let's try our best in the place of not having this physical contact, to at least maintain that contact and the sense of community by checking in one another, inshallah, with one another and making dua for one another, inshallah.
थैंक यू सो मच डॉक्टर साहब, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। नबीला, आपका भी बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, और इंशाल्लाह हम ऐसे प्रोग्राम लेकर आते रहेंगे वक्तन फ़वक्तन। एंड आप लोगों का भी बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, जिन्होंने सवाल भेजे थे उनका भी बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। तो इंशाल्लाह फिर मिलेंगे। खुदा हाफिज़।
खुदा हाफिज़, शुक्रिया बहुत, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।